and welcome back to another episode of Saturday Night Later, the show where sketch teachers and writers break down SNL sketches so we can learn about the structure that goes into writing sketch comedy. I'm your host, Marina Templesman, the writer of the upcoming book, Unusual Things, a guide to sketch comedy for writers, fans, and everyone else. And I am joined by my amazing co-host and author of the Substack, My Comedy Fantasy, Madeline Baldanzi. Madeline, welcome.
Hi, Marina.
Hello. All right, it's just you and me today, and we are going to discuss the third ever episode of SNL UK, hosted by Riz Ahmed. And I'm so excited to talk about it with you. I think that it's been really interesting to watch the sort of development and evolution of SNL UK as it's sort of finding its footing and figuring out like what makes it similar, different from, regular SNL. And I think that this episode had some really interesting and teachable moments in it. The reason we started the show is because we wanted to have a place where people could have like a common source of learning about sketch. Basically, it's really hard for beyond a handful of students going to the same theaters in local, in small cities. It's hard for people to actually get to see a sketch show and be able to talk about it with tons of other people. So using SNL as a model for that, we can do what we basically encourage our students to do in classes. So this show had some highs and some lows to it. I'd love to do a little temperature check first. Like, what was your feeling about this episode on the whole?
I'm looking through my notes and thinking, but what were the highs?
Yeah, honestly, I said that, but I agree. I don't think that this was a strong episode.
It wasn't a strong episode.
No.
I had a really emotionally negative reaction to this episode. I was watching it and felt really like, oh, I'm actually not sure if they have something here. This might fail. It was the first time I really was like, oh, I don't know if they're ready for this or if this is going to work because this isn't working. And some of the sketches, I'll be honest, were making me feel just angry. Like I was like, I'm angry at how bad I think this is. And my next reaction was just like, well, that wasn't funny. This isn't funny. And I sometimes think that like maybe students are having that reaction too, or people who are new to comedy are having that reaction too. And so I wanted to talk about it just a little bit because I think it can be really helpful when you're having that reaction, but you have to like take a step back. So if you're feeling like it's not just funny, that's really good information for you, because a really important thing as a writer is to find your own taste, which is actually like, it is inherent to you, but you also have to figure it out. And it's something you have to do. And you don't just have it. I think you develop it and it evolves over time. So when you find you're really disliking something, let yourself have your emotional reaction and then be like, okay, but why didn't I like that? And I think there's two parts of that, because we're going to talk about like probably why things aren't working. Which is a structural and logistical thing that I think you can always break down. Like, I suspect over the course of this conversation, Marina and I will find the reasons why all of these things aren't working. But there's a second part of it too, where it's like, I think some of these things I just didn't like because they weren't my taste. And kind of noticing the difference between those two things is important and can help you when you're sifting through your own ideas, be like, oh, I really like that, but I don't have the structure for it yet, versus like, maybe that's not a good idea. So I think this was like helpful for me to think about in that way, even though it wasn't a strong episode, in my opinion.
Yes, I love that way of putting it. And I think that's part of why sketch teachers are so relentless about like encouraging people to see as many shows as they possibly can, because there are so many different shades of liking a sketch or disliking a sketch or whatever. And like, there are sketches that don't work that still get you really excited because you see the way it could work. And there are sketches that don't work where you're like, oh, when will it be over? There's nothing for me here. I love what you said, Madeline. I really hope that this video successfully records, because it's still showing up as just connecting here. So I don't know it. Hopefully, I'm really hopeful that it's still going to make a recording. But if not, I guess that you and I will just have had a wonderful conversation with anyone who may be tuning in live. So
no moment speaking with Marina is ever a moment wasted. So
I'm flattered to hear it. I feel the same way about you, Madeline. But yeah, no, I completely agree. I think that there were some kind of juicy things all in the direction of like stuff that wasn't working super well to me. But let's just jump into it. We'll kind of break it down sketch by sketch. Every sketch I think had something a little different that was off about it, which is maybe going to be extra useful. And again, perhaps this will just be for you and me, or if in this conversation, or perhaps it will save, and then that will be a great thing, and we'll figure out what Substack what the issue is. Okay, so let's start with the cold open. So the cold open for this episode was Keir Starmer giving a speech. We always talk about how the cold open for SNL in general, it's kind of funny we have to talk about it first because it's usually the least sketchy sketch of the night. In this case, I thought it was kind of in a way like a structured as a sketch. It was just a kind of weirdly shaped one where there was like a really long open. It was basically, I think that a way to think about this sketch in maybe in a way, a note that I would give to restructure it would be Keir Starmer wants to have other more beloved folks give a national pep talk basically during this moment of crisis. I think that again, cold opens have a little more wiggle room to like not be as specific and on game. In this case, that was really, really short-lived. That little bit at the top, like that little that was the game itself where they had the 3 different guests. And it really is just because I think ideally it's just a vehicle for impressions, right? Like a fun way to get 3 character games out there. And this just didn't give enough time for that, I think.
Yeah, I'm a little confused why they didn't just do it.
Yeah.
And it made me a little bit worried about how deep the bench was for impressions in the actor
Yeah.
pool, because I thought, unfortunately, I love me some Emma City, but that was a poor Olivia Colman impression, and I couldn't
Yeah.
believe that was what they had chosen, and that wasn't good writing for Peppa Pig. The hair also, this was, like, I felt personally catered to by these 3 impressions because I am a soccer fan, a comedy fan, and I have a 3-year-old. So it really couldn't have been things that I like more, and I really didn't like them.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but and then Peppa Pig didn't like. I just want to say that like dark Peppa Pig is not the game. I would have
No.
much rather have seen like her in a full Peppa costume come out and give like a bizarre Peppa Pig pep talk. She's
Yes.
Peppa Pig, like Peppa Pig.
Right. Yeah.
Just play the game. Also, the beat where he walked away right at the
Yeah.
beginning with the it's like, oh, I had a second page of my speech. Like, okay, like
That made me chuckle. I do think that basically I would have almost gotten rid of basically everything except for that, and then gone into the impression. So like basically where I would basically have had 3 pages of each different character coming in and giving their version of a pep talk, because the soccer beat was funny. Like a person
it was a good Harry Kane, actually.
that and it's a really fun impression, and it's also like a fun premise, like the idea of a soccer like it's a soccer player in that type of post-game debrief kind of thing, like trying to give an encouraging talk to the nation, is like a fun, clear idea. And the Olivia Colman, it wasn't a great impression. It had a clear idea behind it, but again, I think that you're right. It just I just also was like, does Olivia Colman really sound like that?
Is
Or
she
like,
oversexed? Is that an Olivia Colman thing? It's not that I'm aware of.
yeah, not that I was aware of either, but I thought maybe I was missing something. But yeah, this one, I think that basically I would have just this one had a I think that this one was meant to feel more like a classic sketch, and I think it just had a really long runway up to the part that was supposed to be fun. But then the part that was supposed to be fun fell a little bit flat, except for that first beat with the soccer player, which I thought was well done.
Yes, I fully agree. I think my only bone of contention is the beat of leaving. I thought was funny enough where I was on board with that as the game, where it's like he doesn't know when his speech is over because he's so boring
Yeah.
that he can't tell. And then when it pivoted, I was confused and taken out of it, and it hampered my enjoyment of the rest of the game. It was almost one of those like too funny and not really on game jokes for me.
Yes.
But
No, I think that's
yes.
totally fair. I think that's totally fair. It was funny because I think that this one could just have used a lot of tidying, basically, my overall diagnosis for this one.
Messy.
Very, very
I'm
messy.
a blame the director on that too. Like a messy show is something that a director should be cleaning up for anyone out
Yes.
there who's directing. Like the buck stops with you and it's your job to make sure they're more prepared than that going out.
Yeah, it was funny because I will say that he was a strong host in many ways, I thought. Like energetic, lively, play like doing the stuff he needed to do in the sketches, like contributing. Like he was a good host. The monologue felt zippy. And not sketchy. So I think there's probably not so much to talk about for the monologue in this show. But it felt like zippy. It got people warmed up. It felt energetic. I was like, okay, like a little bit of a loose cold open, but they're kind of like finding their groove here. And then we got into the first sketch of the night. So should we just jump into the next one, the first sketch, which is the that pre-taped song, "Why Do People in Movies Have Loud Phones?" So let's chat about this one. What was your take on this one?
I I found this was my least favorite thing in the whole show, and I thought it was astonishing that it was the first sketch.
Yes.
I thought it was almost illegible.
Uh-huh.
Um, I think almost every student in a 201 class that I've taught could turn in a sketch that I like. Sorry. I just it didn't there were so many unusual things. Why was it a country song that
Yes.
started with that break-in footage that was sort of stock footagey? That was a weird
Yeah.
lead in because they had to like, and then they were making up clips from things but not all the time.
Right.
That was confusing.
Yes.
So it was like, are the specifics you're saying actually real, or are you even just fudging the specifics? Um, and also I thought the set that they were in for the shots that they kept returning to looked really distractingly confusing. Like, what was
Yes.
it? What was the genre of this song? Where were they? What did that shiny banner stuff have to do with country? Like,
Right.
sorry,
Yeah.
this is one where it's like just beyond the writing, all of the production elements were confusing as well.
It was a really jarring start to this one. I agree, the country song of it all felt confusing. The other thing that bumped me about this one was literally, I think even a phrasing tweak would have actually been really helpful. Like, why do people in movies have their phones on loud? So that's so observational. It feels like more stand up. As an interesting contrast, I think, not that it's perfect, but I think the lonely it made me want to go back, and I briefly did just now, to look back at the Lonely Island song, "Cool Guys Don't Look at Explosions." And I think that if that song were, "Why don't characters in movies look at explosions?" You can kind of intuitively feel like why that would not be as good, right? Like, all of the world building of that song comes from the fact of being like, cool guys don't look at explosions, and then just showing that as true, right? And I feel like there's probably a version of that for this song, where instead of "why do peoples in movies have their phones on loud," that's like, "you're in a movie, so make sure your phone is on loud," or something like that, that would have allowed them to actually engage with the characters. But instead, it sort of just felt like a stand-up bit set to music, but a jarring music that didn't really have much to do with the rest of it. I do think that, like, some of the specifics were fun, like, but it got really, like, it kind of, like, branched out so far beyond where it was starting in ways that wouldn't have bothered me if it didn't already feel, like, a little loud and calamitous to me, I think.
It went
Um,
from Into the Phone to just anything that doesn't make sense in TV and movies.
yes.
And my nitpick with the game at the beginning, at like the game initial game, I don't think that's true. Like, I don't recall watching TV recently where this is true. It felt dated, and you're writing a highly topical sketch show. It
Right.
shouldn't feel dated.
I think I knew what they were referring to, and so whether it's like actually a thing that happens now or whether it's just something that I recall happening, I'm not sure. But I was like, oh yeah, and the thing of like, why is everyone getting the texts at the same time, and like the guy walks in and he's just had a scandal,
I think
like,
I would have liked that more, is it's like, why is everyone finding out about your very small specific scandal at the same exact time?
Right.
Like, that feels like something we see all the time.
Yes. Yes.
I don't think I've ever watched a horror movie where someone's given away from their phone dinging unless it was a comedy.
Yes, I think
Like,
that is true. I think that
it's
the horror movie is the wrong setup for it. It's I think that yeah, I think there's a different way into this that feels less jarring. That's like more because I recognize the school thing and I recognize the office thing. So I almost wonder if there's a different way into it. But yeah, it was just it started in such a weird place to me. And then again, I think that for me the main issue was just that it kind of fell into the stand-up trap of like why do people and I think and there were some fun specifics, but like it just all felt a little like I felt like I was just listening to somebody explain something to me, sort of, instead of actually being in a sketch that had some sort of like heightening or exploration. And I think when we got to the line, um, why are things in TV and movie and films not how it is in real life? I was like, this is like I don't. This feels really half baked to
a
me.
movie.
Because it's a movie, yeah, because it's a movie TV show, just like we're watching right now. Like, I don't know. Yeah, this one, I think my hunch, Madeline, is like when you said that this was like this episode, like kind of made you like that extra type of uh like viewer cranky, in addition to feeling structurally dissatisfied and everything. I think that this sketch probably had a lot to do with it because it was such a bizarre way to start and felt so like a jarring and sort of in your face and like I just again I think that this one felt like a little I think that the flip side of like how important it is to be having fun in sketch is that if you're having too much fun and your audience isn't enjoying it, then it feels really irritating. And I think that maybe this was the first piece of that in an episode that had more of that.
I also think, and this is not about writing at all, but it is important, is I think it was partially a budget problem. Like,
Yeah.
I don't think they had the budget to make this work. If you think about how this looked and how about the James Austin Johnson country song from SNL, like that looked like a country music video. And this looked like, I don't know what this looked like. It didn't look like anything.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, it looked really cheap.
Yeah.
Um, and sometimes you can't help that. But if you can't make it look right, you have to find a creative solution. And this sometimes it even makes something better, but that didn't happen here. I think something just got lost
Totally.
because they
Completely
couldn't
agree.
make it look how they wanted it or possibly even get the rights to the footage they wanted to get. I
That's
thought
quite
that might have been
possible.
another problem
That's
with it.
possible. Yeah. This one just kind of just like didn't, yeah.
Like, I could see the writer having been like, "No, no, no, I have examples from this and this and this of this dinging."
Right.
But we couldn't clear it. And we'd
Right.
already spent the money, so we put it in.
Yeah. And I will say in Cool Guys Don't Look at Explosions, they do have a lot of actual footage from things. So it is like kind of solidifying the observation too. So yeah, this one
Yeah.
not very strong and I think potentially a little off-putting from a viewership perspective. But okay, cool. Should we move on to the next one?
I'm delighted to talk about the Trader sketch.
Okay, let's talk about the Trader sketch. And with my quick caveat that I've never seen Traders, which I really should see it. I think I've heard great things.
I have it. It's a reality show.
Which is why I should see it. I love
They nailed
reality
it.
TV.
They nailed the tropes.
Okay, so let's hear your thoughts on this one.
I like this idea. This felt like a mod sketch circa 2015. I don't know if maybe that's come back in fashion again. But who is the great big crab man? There is a crab man. It's very obvious, but for some reason, no one can tell. I think that's a really funny, really absurd idea. I like how they played the beats of trying to figure out the traitor very faithfully, but kept replacing the crabman specific. I think it largely worked. I think we were probably lacking a little bit of justification for why they couldn't tell. Like I think it needed like one more I don't know. Was the crab quite good at it? Were they quite bad at it? I just wanted to understand a little bit more.
So I was okay with no justification, and I think that sometimes when it's so goofy, like if you try to over justify too much, it can kind of break apart. What I did want more of though was like varied beats and specifics. And I think that we stalled out a little bit on like I think that they named a lot of some specifics of like he has to sleep in a bucket of water and like he has to have the ankle surgery. And they did have that one moment where they cut to him like scooting back and forth in front of the bucket of cash, which was very funny. But I just wonder like what other things could have been happening in the room. And like I want like I even just having a moment where it's like, what do you think, Sebastian? And like, what is his little a moment where he's expresses himself in the way that he does because it was a very funny performance too.
Yeah, he was
Um,
good. I think we're kind of saying the same thing, but both having not watched Traders.
yeah,
So like I think sometimes when you're watching it, it's just like it's so obviously this person. So the justification is like they're dumb in real life about it sometimes.
yeah,
Um, and like and I think they could have played like the actual dynamics from the show of that more to like
hmm
justify why this person isn't getting it, but they
yes,
weren't really playing necessarily that out. They were
right,
just using like the chalkboard and flashing back. And I think
right,
that like the on traders sometimes it's like they're people get like pretty mad and emotional about how like dumb they're like Riz's thing at the end was really funny.
yes,
Right, like,
yes,
and I think, like, playing more, like, the reality of feeling like everybody else is so stupid, like, those emotional beats almost would have been more active
yes.
than just going out, but,
Wait, do
overall,
they do
really
have
enjoyed.
flashbacks in the show? I feel like if there
Yeah.
are, then they should have had a whole bunch more of those. Then I feel like it all just came out by way of talkiness.
Because it's also all about relationships.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
it's almost one where, like, it could have even been talkier,
yeah.
but, like, emotional beats between the characters would have been a more active way to reflect the genre of the show, weirdly.
Interesting. Well, actually, so somebody asked a question, which I'd love to just give to you because since I'm not familiar with traders, they said like, what was the point of having it be sort of so closely mapped onto traders instead of its own show? Like, like what was why did that matter or not matter or something like that?
I think because it's absurd. It's a game that's so steeped in, like, treachery that to
Yeah.
have something, like, so clearly not treacherous
Yes.
is, like, highlighting how silly Traders is. Like,
Yes.
it's a loving and absurd take on it.
Yes. I that I think that makes sense. That as the base reality, I think borrowing the base reality of traders feels like a good way to sort of be able to quickly get across the fun that you're looking to have with these.
Like, it wouldn't have worked on a dating show as well. I think maybe
Yeah.
that's a good way to think about it, like, on a bachelor type show, because then it would just become a joke about, like, are you attracted to a big crab man or not? And, like, I don't know,
Right.
maybe you are. That's not really funny if you are or not. I don't if you're attracted to great big crab men, love that for you.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, if you're confused about, like, who is a traitor or not, like,
Yeah.
that it being very obvious, like, highlights what's the game of traitors.
Yes, it's using that sort of like inquisitiveness. It seems in a really productive way. I also do want to say that was a wonderful costume. I love that costume. That was really beautifully done. Maybe that's
Yes.
where the budget went.
Production team loved the Great
They
Big
did
Crab
a great
Man.
costume. I'm also really glad though that you mentioned. Well, actually, sorry. Is there anything else that you wanted to mention about this one before we move on? Okay,
No.
because I was really what you said about like almost it could be more emotional and like could be more about like the character dynamic beats. Um, Oh, actually, you know what? That
Without being plotty.
without being plotty, that's one that I want to circle back to that idea when we get to the radio station sketch, the OG FM trying to do serious PSA on a radio station. We're gonna get to that one in a second though, because I realized there's one more sketch before that, and this is the another pre-tape sketch, man plagued by losing operation. Um, I kind of enjoyed this one. I thought it was kind of fun and wacky. What were your thoughts on this one?
I thought the premise was pretty well worn,
Yes.
but maybe like guy losing his family because he becomes obsessed with something that is silly feels like something I've seen a lot
Yeah.
before. However, it's like Riz, so he does that a lot. He mentioned it in the monologue, so maybe that's earned with this host to do like a serious dramatic thing.
Yeah.
I thought it wasn't very surprising or funny even. Like I was just like I'm not surprised by any of these beats. But it maybe was all worth it to get to the real man lying on the
Yeah.
ground
He looked
with
so
that
much
no
like the operation
like,
guy.
that was really funny. Like,
That was
that was the first time it was surprising and it really worked, so, maybe that was
I
all
really
fine.
liked that. That was kind of my same feeling too, where I was like, kind of like watching it. I was like, I do think some of the stuff of like, yeah, father obsessing over this thing he can't get away from. Like, I think a lot of those beats could have just been tidied a little bit more. Again, it just felt like there was like some de-heightening that happened, some lateral moves, some like other kind of things that could have just been like cleaned up a little more, like when she left versus when she didn't leave. Like, I think there's just that could have just been
I
organized more
just don't
nicely.
think it's funny.
It's
Like,
just,
I don't
yeah,
it's like, well, it's not a funny idea yet.
yeah. I think it's
Like,
like
dad getting too into operation, 'cause, maybe this is one where, like, the genre isn't enough it's not anything. It's not
may
what is
or
it really parodying? And it's not quite a parody, but it's not quite a parody.
I also do wonder if maybe like the way into it was the problem. If instead of like him be like, "You're playing that silly game," if instead it's like, "Honey, like your father is very busy right now," blah blah blah, and instead we get into him being operation as like a reveal by starting with the base reality of like
Yeah.
your dad is going through a very difficult time or something. Like I don't know. I feel like I agree with you. I think that there's something a little basic about it, but I do also really feel that like when we got to the guy going whoop, whoop, whoop on the floor, that was
That was
genuinely
surprising.
fantastic.
Is it just a map? It almost feels like a mapping sketch where it wasn't really mapped onto anything.
Yes, I think it was, but I think you're right. That genre of like the dad is leaving the family or something. Dad is slipping away from the family.
Like, I'd
Is
almost rather equate it to, like, golf or like, even making it he has an online gambling addiction. He has an
yeah,
online operation I don't know, just, like, something to give you
yeah,
more specifics to play with before you get to the real operation man, which I
I love,
or just
yeah.
make that very short.
I think that yeah, I think that we both when you're hearing a conversation like this where it's like we're kind of like circling it but not quite like pinning anything down, that's kind of a good sign that like there's just like I think there's another question to sort of ask the person who wrote it, which is like, what's your favorite part of this? What's the part that you're most enjoying? And I think that when we're flipping back and forth between different ways, it's because we can't know what part they were most excited about. If they were most excited to get to the point where the guy is lying down in the restaurant, then that's a different diagnosis from if they're like if they really love the sort of mapping or like person is really like a harrowing tale of a family because the father is so absorbed with his operation addiction. That was a really the turn at the end was I thought actually genuine. I was like, this is so gross, but genuinely pretty fun too. It's like one
I
of the
loved it.
yeah, it was really where it's like, oh, he's like, where's the basket? Like I thought that by having gone, it was kind of a nice little like reversal again in a way where it's like he's taking it really seriously. There's something really goofy going on, and then we're like back to something pretty gross. It was that was fun. I thought that was nice and effective and surprising to
Surprise is
yeah
funny. Like,
yeah.
it was very surprising.
It was very surprising and very gross. And usually when sketches get gross, I like kind of tune out a little bit. But this one, I was like, this is really solid.
If the writer of the sketch was like, "I did this a couple ways, and this was how the ending was funniest," I'd be like, "Fine,
Yeah, yeah,
sure, fine,
totally.
I don't
Yeah,
care.
yeah,
Leave it."
totally. Sketches
I
are
believe
funny little beasts, and
that was so funny.
sometimes you just have like a long build up to something that will only work with that long build up. So, okay, now next up is this radio sketch. The trying to do okay. this is a very teachable one, I think.
Multiple unusual things.
Yes, so many unusual things. I would say the primary game I think they were interested in was trying to do a serious PSA on one of those goofy kind of radio shows. I'm sure there's a name for what that radio show is.
I think they wanted Riz Ahmed to rap about prostate cancer.
Yes, yes. I think that made sense as a fun beat, and I'm glad they got there. But I do think that like the premise was probably like serious announcement trying to be made on one of these shows, right? I think that this is an example of confusing your setting for your game because the base reality is this type of show where there's sound effects and that, and instead it felt like they kind of kept on trying to follow that as a game instead of having like these kind of pivots back and forth from Riz. I do think this is an example of why structure matters in a sketch, why it is important to have beats and heightening and rest the game and all those things, because I really don't think I could tell you a single beat of that sketch because it was really jumbled with so many messy things going on.
I think I narrowed it down to 3 games.
Okay, let's hear it.
And these were the 3 that kept getting mixed up. One was that there's a joke that it's like middle-aged people talking like that.
Yes.
The second one is very similar but different, which is talking like that about middle-aged people's stuff. Like
Yes.
they're actually
Different.
even
Yeah,
though they
totally.
sound the same.
Yes.
And then the third one is that like they were not gonna let him talk.
Right.
Like it's like you don't have to interrupt. You don't
Right.
interrupt him.
Yes. Yes.
That's totally separate.
It's totally separate.
And I think like some of them are weirdly similar, but they just had to let it be like we've aged into talking about prostate cancer and we're going to talk about prostate cancer with all of these trappings.
Yes.
That's all it needed to be.
I think that knits it all together really nicely. And I think that it's just needed again, a tidying, just kind of a tidying up. Like I think because I think that you're right that probably the fun of this idea was like, ooh, is there a way to get him to rap on the show? And this is a great way to do that. And it was really fun when we got to that point. It was nice and clean and like a fun, great rap. And I just think this one just again structurally was just all over the place and so tangled up. So this is again a great teachable one, just really needed a little bit of tidying. Anything else on this one, or shall we move on? All right, next up is Weekend Update. Let's go ahead. There were 3 guest appearances on Weekend Update.
One of them, just such a great idea.
Okay. Okay, I want to hear your thoughts. The first was the Love Island contestant commenting, on the fruit on this AI generated fruit thing. What were your thoughts on this one? I honestly can't remember the specifics super clearly as we're talking about. I remember thinking the jokes were
got a little bit mired in an accident up top where it was like they made a joke about her being from like season 3/4 or something, and she had a very silly name. And they were like, "Oh, are you a real contestant or something?" But that was really confusing when you're already talking about like not real fruit people. And I think that like it's an example of like you don't have much time in a desk piece, every word is precious, and that threw a little bit of strangeness up top.
Yeah.
And then I think like Emma's performance never really recovered. And like you could imagine this being a Cecily Strong character or something and her knocking it out of the park with just like slightly tighter writing. And I think maybe they even got to like a really good idea at the end, which is she's like, I wish I was a strawberry with an ass. Like, I'm not saying they're not better, but like I'm not.
Right,
like,
right.
Just like being like, wait, do you wish you were the fruit? Like you could play that. They got there by the end, but it had to be something smaller and tighter to give that like pretty fun performance, something to not get too broad over.
This is interesting. I think they got there by the end is actually sort of a recurring note throughout this episode. And certainly I think for me, for all 3 desk pieces. Like I think that they got there by the end was which is, I think, also a really great teachable thing, because I think that that is something as a sketch teacher you always see with students, especially when they're starting out, where it's like they will, it's almost like you're finding sometimes the thing as you're going along. And often if you look on page 3, it's like, oh, this is what you want. This is the part that you're enjoying. This is the part that's fun. And like, what can we do to sort of hoist that up to the top so that we can be doing that and more of it the whole time?
Because the dormouse was the exact same thing.
Exact same thing.
Because it took me until the end to be like, oh, that's funny.
Yes.
A mouse doesn't live for very long. So they're cycling through the social media
Yes.
journey very quickly. That could have been made just clear up top, and I would have loved this ride.
Yes. Because when they said the life cycle of fame, I wrote that down. I was like, this label is so clear, but it took so long to get there. And I was, until then, I was like, oh, we're like, what's going on? We're moving from this to that.
Sassy mouse.
Yeah. Until then, it sort of felt just like, oh, we're just doing the influencer thing while being a mouse. And my first notes for that were like, oh, it should be a little bit, we should sort of like bounce mouse specifics off of the influencer thing a little more. It just felt like there was no, but then once we got to that, I was like, oh, that's a really fun, really clear idea. Just labeling that up top would have been so it would be such a huge difference, because it would have been so elegant to watch that played. And I think then it really would have popped. Like, I think that this would have been like really strong if we had just labeled it earlier on, because it was so fun to watch.
Performance was really good.
Yeah,
he's great.
He's so good. He's so good. The performance was great. It just needed to be labeled up top so we could understand what they were doing, because it was really clever. It was really clever, but it wasn't clear at the top. So all we were left with was the performance at the beginning, and then by the end, it was really fun. I do think that ending line, I've invested my money in some weird things, it felt a little unspecific to me, and I would have loved just like, I think this is one where like, I, as a teacher, if somebody had that as their blackout line, I'd be like, just brainstorm 10 possible different blackout lines, and just
let's get the room going.
Yeah.
What can we do? Let's go.
There's got to be something fun and more specific in there than just weird. Okay, cool. So that was the second one. I think you and I had the exact same read on this.
I think we might disagree about the third one.
Ooh, okay. Tell me, what are your thoughts about the third one?
Okay. I think father and son who still do skin on skin is so funny.
Mm-hmm.
I guffawed when I heard it, and it was the way they came out. I don't know. I'm going to give the production design some props again. The way that those chairs were the correct height was so funny. Like, they looked hilarious. I love this idea. Their performances, I think maybe the writing wasn't strong enough and they were trying to make it funny. They didn't need to do anything funny. All they needed to do was just like dial in, like, I'm dad, this is my son. We just really love doing skin, like they did. And I think that there was like a whiff of something sexual here. And I think in order for this to work, it had to be like, no, it's just bonding. Like, some fathers and sons have baseball, but we've just been doing this the whole time, and it's how we stay close. Like, I think they could have, it got like icky to me.
Yeah.
And I thought it was such a clever idea that they let get sexual, and it really needed to not be.
Right. I honestly am having a little trouble remembering this one too. Like, I think that I think that my main note for this was like, if the fun of it is hearing them talk about like kind of being like scolding of other people while doing this kind of absurd thing themselves, I think that could have again, just felt to me like it could have been a little bit cleaner. I think that it was just, I think that sometimes.
Why was it scoldy? It's funny enough on its own. Like, just seeing them is funny.
Right.
I think it's shorter. The visual is the joke.
Yeah. Totally. Like, and just like we could just have fun with the specifics of like, so like how, like, teasing out details. I think in the same way that we teased out details from the Love Island contestant.
How long do you have to do this to get the benefit?
Yeah. Yes, exactly.
Well, as you get older, a lot longer.
Yeah, a lot longer. Yeah, totally. Yeah, I think that's exactly right. I think that sometimes this is funny. I was thinking about this after our last SNL episode 2, where we talked about the carry on the acapella sketch. It's not just a pet peeve. There's a little bit of a pet peeve I have when that tends to creep up when men take off their shirt in the sketch. And I think the pet peeve is because often it gets a quick and easy laugh. But I think that also sometimes can distract from the writing too. Like I think it feels like inherently like a joke in some sort of way that lets the writer off the hook or can distract a little bit from something more specific that's going on. And I do think that that maybe is sort of what I was responding to here. I was also very logistically confused at one point because I thought that they said before they came on that they they somebody who's doing it at age 5 and then he was 32. I
Oh,
thought
I
they
didn't
were,
hear that.
oh, maybe I might have misheard something, but there was some like logistical hiccup that I felt a little snagged on. But I really loved like the lines like smelling his newborn head but older.
That was
Like
great.
things like that I would have loved to just enjoy more. I think that you're right, Madeline. I do think that them just playing it a little bit more like, yeah, like this is what
Just
we like
take
to do.
baby stuff and make it about a 32-year-old man.
Yeah,
That's fine.
yeah. I think that's really nice. Like what are the latest milestones that he's developed? What are, things like that. Like I think that there's a lot more fun just inherent in the idea.
Oh, 32-year-old milestones is so funny. This is an easy mapping sketch.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it got a little overcomplicated. So yeah. Okay, great. Awesome. So those were the three desk bits. Next one is the Royal Society of Literature, the Bastard Seagull. Okay, this is also an interesting teachable one to me, I think. Do you want me to jump in to start? Okay, so I thought whenever you see like three people lined up in a row, I always get a little excited. I mean, I know it's like a pretty straightforward setup, but I'm always like, okay, we're gonna have like usual, usual, unusual, and I'm always like, ooh, okay, like built instant anticipation. Okay, so they pulled off the third one, the Bastard Seagull. I was like, okay. I wasn't I was like, there's something fun about this, like just about like how annoying seagulls can be on a beach. I guess that's what this is going to be. But then I was very confused because when he read his first passage and they said like, are you saying that there's a seagull in your house? I was like, he never said the seagull was in his house because he didn't. And I went back and watched it a second time and I was like, they never mentioned the seagull being in the house. So I was logistically confused. I think that the reveal of him being covered in seagull poop was was sort of like muddying what was going on.
Terrible decision.
Yes, visual, like
Director should not have let that happen.
absolutely not. It was like a confusing visual before we got to the reveal that made sense of the unusual
I
thing.
was like, this is gonna be about how he's getting pooped on by a bird that is chasing him around. Like,
Right.
as soon as the camera went, I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
To me, it just blew it.
It's
Why would you blow the joke?
it steps on it. And I think that the other thing, like once we got to the part where they're asking questions and teasing out details, I was having more fun with that, like enjoying some of the specifics. Because I think that the idea of a horror writer writing about a specific situation that is happening to them and like teasing out the details of what this ridiculous situation is, I think that that's a fun setup. I just don't think I think that like it just felt like it came out really slowly and kind of awkwardly. It kind of clunked along to me a little bit.
I thought the premise, I thought the setup felt really false.
Uh-huh.
Because what is this like horror thing where we're presenting our work in a like contest or something? Like, I think it would have rung better for me if they were some sort of like writers group or like doing a reading. Like,
Yeah.
why did it have to be that complicated?
I didn't mind it, but I think you're right that like a writers group would have sort of been just like a simpler
Or like a
walk. I mean,
parlor party.
yeah, and we wouldn't have needed to take so much time with the others because I do think that the problem with the three character setup is it takes a little more time.
To their credit, they immediately abandoned it.
Yes.
So that
Yes.
was good.
Yes. And I did like the like slowly learning like okay, so the window is stuck. Okay, so then there's more than one seagull. He did try to get it out. Well, like I think there's something fun there, but it just didn't ever quite become like quite fun
I don't think they
enough.
used the whole buffalo here, right? So
No.
if you're like, why is it actually set in a gothic time? Because you could imagine like this being now. Why was it then? And it's because George Fouracres wants to do this character, right? Like
Yeah.
he wants to talk like the old timey guy. It's like, okay, fine. Sure. But if you're gonna do that, then I think you need to really, like, use the gothic horror of
Yes.
it a little bit, and, like, he could have had, like, 2 or 3 one-liners about, like, why the seagull pooping on you is the same as Frankenstein.
Yes.
Like,
Yes.
I'm the next Mary Shelley,
Yeah.
Frankenstein is a bird that can't be killed and chases you to your mother's house. Worse
Yeah.
than Antarctica. I don't know, like,
Yeah.
whatever. You know,
Right.
like, anything. Just
Yeah.
use it a little bit, otherwise why? It just it felt like a why to me. I'm also gonna call 4 Acres out here. That pubes length line really stunk it up for me
Yeah.
because why?
Yeah. It was just
Why
the word.
make it be a pubes length and having it come off of that, like, weirdly, slightly sexual skin on skin thing, I'm like, "I see you, dude, and you have to reel it in on TV here."
Yeah.
Like,
I
it's funny to you, but it's not serving the sketch, and
yes.
this is the second time you've done it in a row, so reel it in. I got
Yeah.
my eye on you.
I do think I had the same feeling with the pubes length. I was like, this is one of those things where it's like the word it's gonna get a laugh because the word is gonna get a laugh when you say it, but it's like not actually contributing and it's throwing off the
Yes,
fun that you're actually looking to play
a
with. So
gothic writer wouldn't have said that.
yes,
Like,
exactly. Yeah. I
play the thing. Trust your thing to play the thing.
yes. I think that's a very, very reasonable thing to be keeping an eye on. And then the last sketch, unless there's anything else that you oh, actually, sorry, one more thing I do really like the in the previous one, the line, "It seems like you're writing about something that happened specifically to you. This is not horror." I feel like that is a really fun piece of this that I think I would have loved to use more because I did think it was fun when he pivoted from talking about, like, the literature to, like, "I know, he tried," like, there's something really fun about that, but I just think we didn't get enough of that. Okay, anyway, now the final sketch of the night, the birthing class. Oh, yeah, I think it was the final one, right? Yes.
Mhm.
Okay, the birthing class. Easter bunny in a birthing class, but also the they're birthing Easter eggs, and also the Easter bunny doesn't know that Easter eggs are chocolate. You probably have already caught on to the fact that there were a lot of unusual things going on in this one. I think too many unusual things, I would say. And I think that this just needed way more simplification. Yeah, this one
I
is
almost don't know what to even say
yeah,
other than not for one moment did they do a birthing
yeah,
class beat
yeah,
in this. There was no
yes,
reason to set this at a birthing class. And if you have a sketch where you set up something, a canvas upon which to play out the joke, and you don't use it once, you've spent too long trying to explain and not enough time playing.
yes. Agreed. Agreed.
They're
That's a great point. Yeah, that wasn't. It's funny. That is such a. That makes so much sense, and yet that wasn't even like at the top of my list of notes that I had for this one because there was
they're
so
so
much stuff going on. I think that if a student brought in the sketch just in the script form, I think that Madeline's note is a great one to think about. I would also have said, here's what I see as unusual, because I think when there's so much stuff going on, it's you sometimes just have to list it out what you see. Okay, so I would
it's
say
like the OGFM, but 7 times worse.
yes, exactly. It's like, okay, so I see that the an Easter bunny is in a birthing class. That's one thing.
Weird.
The Easter bunny, okay, that's one thing. And then like chocolate eggs are made by the Easter bunny giving birth to them is a second thing, right? That is different from the first thing. And then the third thing, the Easter bunny doesn't know that people eat his chocolate eggs, which is kind of a little bit tailing on the like Easter bunny gives birth to eggs, but it's sort of also a whole other thing. Like the Easter bunny not knowing that people eat the chocolate he gives them is I would kind of categorize as a third separate thing.
And
And yes,
the Easter bunny being gay is not unusual, but, like, the Easter bunny being defensive about how being an Easter bunny that lays chocolate eggs also makes them queer is, like, a weird point of view,
right.
but maybe that's not quite a game because that's part of the weird world of the Easter bunny giving birth to chocolate eggs in the first place, but it feels like a different point of view to follow, so it's kind of like another half game.
Yes. I think this is one that's going to be tough to talk about here because this is a classic example of if this were in a class, I would say to the student, like, okay, there's a lot going on here. I would list the things that we saw. What about the sketch is the most fun for you? Like, which is the part that you got most excited about writing? And if they were like, I really love the idea that the Easter bunny, that chocolate eggs are made by the Easter bunny, like pooping them out or something because they come out of his butt or something like that. Then I would say like, okay, so if the fun of it is like chocolate Easter eggs actually are kind of gross. Maybe there's like a different way for us to approach this idea entirely. If they were like, the fun that I want to have here is like seeing a person dress up as the Easter bunny or like play the Easter bunny in a birthing class, then I would be like, okay, so let's talk about how to set that. Is the point of it like maybe don't make the eggs be chocolate? Maybe it's like this is a working parent who's about to have the biggest work weekend of their life and they're also in a birth class or something like that. I would just
That's
figure
what
out.
they set it up as. Like, I
Yes.
was really expecting them to come out and be like, "I can't believe this is my due date is Monday, and they're not letting me get out of work on Sunday."
Yeah,
Like,
right?
that's
Like
what I thought it was gonna be.
I thought so too. Right. So like I think that there's basically just honing in on what is the thing that you find fun about it. And then obviously the challenge after you hone in is figuring out, okay, like what's expansive within the idea that you've honed in on. So it's, this isn't a note to say like, therefore pick one thing and make it teeny and tiny and small and perfect because like you still want to be surprising your audience. But I do think that this sketch just had so much going on. And I do think, Madeline, you're right that like them not using the birthing class at all is a pretty good indicator that this was just the idea was not set in the right spot. Whatever
Ugh.
the idea was. Yeah, this was a tough one. This was a tough
I wrote,
one.
"I don't want to watch this" at the top,
Yeah. Yeah.
and then I was right. I would also kind of, like, maybe be a little more mean to that student,
Yeah.
and ask, like, "What is funny to you about the Easter Bunny coming?" Because I think that, like, that was intended to be a big laugh, is, like, the Easter Bunny appearing. It's also so strange for the partner to walk in and be like, "My partner's coming in, and, like, just so you know, like, they're a little sensitive," and then to have the Easter Bunny come in, and that's supposed to get a laugh. Why? Like, why
Yeah.
is that funny?
Right. Yeah.
'Cause, like, being a big pregnant woman is ridiculous. Like, why? Like, because an Easter, like, a pregnant Easter bunny is like, I'm actually.
Yeah. It genuinely was a little confusing. I think I don't I think that I always there's like a little part of me whenever there's like a sketch that has like that sort of like has a pregnancy thing. I always am like, oh, you think pregnancy is there's something I don't like about this. I honestly this one I think there was so much going on that
Like,
I
forgot to be
almost
annoyed
like
about
yeah,
it.
I've almost released that entirely because I'm
Yeah.
like, I just genuinely don't know with this one. Again, I think that like there were a few things that they probably found funny about it. Um, but I do think that like I mean, I honestly think that like if part of the fun was seeing the Easter Bunny in a birthing class, maybe potentially these two different sketches. One of which is what does a rabbit birthing class look like? And the other one is a sketch about how well, what people don't really know is that Easter eggs are all pooped out by the Easter bunny, right? Like, I feel like those are two
I
separate
I might have
ideas.
done it like this.
Yeah.
Oh god. It's like Easter morning, it's kinda like Christmas. It's Easter morning and the kid is just like, "I'm an Easter bunny kid. I wanna see the Easter bunny. I stayed up all night." And the Easter bunny comes down and is like, "Ugh." And they're like, "Oh, no."
I really
Like,
like that. Like a lot of
that
build up to it or something
that
like that.
that would
Yeah.
work
Yeah.
fine.
I think that's absolutely a way to do it.
It maybe the birthing class is just, like, really the wrong place. Because maybe we would just wanna see the birth.
Yeah,
If
right.
pooping
Maybe
out
it's
I suspect pooping out the eggs is the funny thing.
yeah, I suspect so too.
I'm
I
not
just
offended if it's not in a birth class anymore.
yeah, right? Yeah, maybe it is just that. Yeah. or
Wrong
the delivery
setting.
room. I think wrong setting. I think wrong
Sometimes you
setting.
just get the wrong setting. It
Yeah,
happens.
absolutely. I think this might be a wrong setting, and I think that this probably there could just use a few follow-up questions on like what the idea was here. Um, but I think a really honestly an interesting show, even though there was a lot of stuff that like just kind of fell flat. Like I think again, the importance of specifics, the importance of using structure, and that thinking of structure not as something that's meant to like push down your sketch, but something that is a tool for you to use, right? Like I sometimes think about it as like I sometimes think about scaffolding as like a useful thing where like the goal of having scaffolding in sketch isn't to like contain you, it's actually to build upon. So like think about the structure as scaffolding that is meant to help you soar, not something to constrain you.
Yeah,
Um,
that's so
but
smart.
I think that this would a lot of these sketches would have been much stronger with just a little more structure, tidiness to them. But we'll see. We have a few more episodes this season. Before we go, as always, Madeline, anything to plug?
I do story coaching. So if you're writing anything, movie, novel, TV show, short story, audio, comedy, drama, let me know. I would love to help you nail that structure.
Yes, absolutely. And my plug, as always, is just please spread the word about this Substack, about the Instagram, about the podcast, all of that to anybody you know who loves sketch. Also, I think based on the results of a poll that I put out, it seems like people would be interested in some sort of a mailbag episode with sketch questions, which I think would be just so much fun. So
That's a dream
please,
come
please,
true for me.
please do let us know if you have questions that you would like to be included in a mailbag episode. That is exactly the kind of thing that Madeline and I love to do and talk about. So yeah, think about your sketch questions
Oh, Marina,
or
I have some
funny questions.
sketch questions I'm going to submit for you.
I love it. Okay, great. And I'll submit some back to you. But we'll be we'll give full disclosure when it's a question that we have for each other. We don't want you to be listening being like, why are all the questions like Madeline, why does your hair look so nice? Love Marina. Like, we want you to know that they're questions that are actually coming from real listeners. But yeah, absolutely. I'm excited talking about writing with you is like one of my absolute favorite ways to spend a day. So this will be really fun. I'm very excited. Awesome. All right. Well, thank you everybody for listening. Really appreciate it. And see you next week. All right. Bye, Madeline.
Bye.
Bye.